Since my first explorations of the human psyche, I have observed that family bonds, no matter how indestructible they may seem, sometimes hide raw dynamics that few dare to admit. My experience has led me to identify behaviors that indicate a lack of appreciation at home. Today I will uncover a disturbing topic, clear signs that your family does not value you. This topic can shake the very foundations, so it's advisable to stay attentive and follow to the end to clearly understand each point. Everything is presented in a simple style, but with a touch of tension that prompts reflection on behaviors that remain hidden at first glance. Stay until the last word, because what follows may change your view of your close environment and spark ideas that transform your way of dealing with family relationships. Sign 1. Subtle expression of contempt in communication. Subtle contempt hides behind barely visible gestures, such as indifference or constantly correcting your words. This act may seem harmless, but it leaves marks that erode your inner peace, even if they are never openly spoken. These scornful looks or cold smiles create a heavy atmosphere filled with hostile energy. Comments appear that devalue your achievements, present your efforts as insignificant, or exaggerate every small mistake. This behavior aims to anchor you in insecurity by constantly making you question your own worth. Sometimes there are no direct insults, but an ironic tone is used to trivialize your perspective. When this happens repeatedly, a web of devaluation forms that suffocates your self-confidence. This subtle undercurrent shows up in family conversations or private talks, such as when your presence is ignored or praise is deliberately withheld. Perhaps normalcy is pretended in front of others, but in private, passive-aggressive control prevails, which exhausts. No open violence is needed to destroy emotional stability. Tiny rejections, drop by drop, undermine self-esteem. Stay strong and keep reading, because exposing this silent manipulation helps you recognize it more clearly and protect your boundaries. It's a sick game that's easily overlooked if you're not alert. That's why vigilance is essential. Staying until the end will help you understand how these details connect with larger patterns, as each sign is reinforced by other attitudes that undermine your inner harmony. Subtle contempt, even if rarely spoken about, has traumatic effects if it lasts. It sows insecurity and creates the perfect breeding ground for deep emotional wounds. Sign 2. Disproportionate demands and lack of recognition. When the family constantly demands, there is no room left for understanding or support. You are expected to take on duties that go beyond what is reasonable, without the slightest expression of gratitude. This behavior hides in tasks imposed on you, regardless of your current situation. You hear comments that blame you for not doing more, or for not meeting excessive expectations. In a healthy environment, there is reciprocity, but here imbalance dominates. The family takes a lot but gives little in return. Often, this hides an attempt at manipulation. Every favor you give is met with sparse acknowledgement or a forced smile. The cycle repeats. Because genuine appreciation is missing, your desire to please grows in the hope that your sacrifice will one day be acknowledged. This vicious circle drains your willpower and leads to physical and mental exhaustion. The family's glances become critical. They demand results in a hostile manner and become offended or make you feel guilty if you don't meet their expectations. Affection and true love are replaced by hidden commands, and every act of generosity is taken for granted. This disregard can destroy your inner motivation and leave a sense of injustice and uselessness. A constant feeling of obligation arises, from which you can hardly free yourself for fear of their reaction. This scenario is not only exhausting, but makes you believe you can never do enough to be truly appreciated. Stay alert, because more signs will follow later that, along with this excessive demand, deepen the internal wound even further. Recognizing them will help you act more clearly. Realizing that a family drains you with insatiable demands is crucial to distinguishing between a healthy bond and a destructive cycle. But it doesn't end here. The real burden arises when these demands are accompanied by even harsher actions that make you appear not as a loved and respected family member, but as a mere tool. Sign 3. Your abilities and needs are underestimated. Another clear form of devaluation is the constant questioning of your abilities and needs. You are confronted with attitudes that doubt your every decision or endeavor, as if you lacked strength, ambition, or judgment. This disregard also extends to your emotional, material, or health needs. They are dismissed as exaggeration or whim. When your family ignores the circumstances that burden you, a climate of isolation arises without room for compassion or cooperation. Your exhaustion, stress, or pain is often downplayed compared to what others supposedly endure. This unfair comparison not only devalues your voice, but also distorts your perception of reality. Your problems always seem insignificant. Pay close attention to these dynamics, as they can disguise themselves as jokes or harmless banter to deprive your inner experience of its meaning. A family that does not value you often neutralizes your inner warning signals so that you begin to mistrust your own judgment. The result is a feeling of helplessness. You withdraw more and more, unsure whether you're even being heard. This pattern harbors a subtle danger because constant devaluation forms an inner voice that makes you question your own abilities. Keep reading and stay with it. More signs will follow that complete the overall picture of a family that does not support your personal growth. Everything interlocks like a mechanism that, if not stopped, ruins your emotional health and sabotages your potential for development, as well as your ability to form healthy relationships and trust yourself. True respect means acknowledging the needs and boundaries of every family member. When that doesn't happen, a bitter aftertaste of loneliness arises and the certainty that your wishes will never be a priority. This wound can severely damage your ability to trust, and that's what makes this pattern so dangerous. It destroys your self-image and makes you confuse familial love with manipulation or indifference. Sign 4. Hidden hostile behavior. Sometimes the family shows hostility in covert ways. There are no open insults or physical attacks, but a noticeable coldness hangs in the air, setting your heart on alert. You get the feeling that you're more of a nuisance than a contributor. Such family members express themselves through biting hints, sarcastic comments, or mockery disguised as humor. They deliberately block your attempts to get close with icy silence, filled with resentment or indifference. A climate of constant tension arises where every word could trigger an explosion. Silent reproach lingers in the air. This passive aggression manifests in being left out of gatherings, in forced distance, or through a complete lack of affection. Your body feels this tension as if your home were a minefield and not a safe place. It is essential to stay attentive and read this text to the end, because understanding this phenomenon is crucial to seeing through the web of familial devaluation. Those who experience this form of hostility often do not immediately recognize it as abuse, as it mixes with seemingly neutral behavior. Superficially friendly days are followed by phases of cold withdrawal. This constant back and forth exhausts the mind, creates confusion, and leads to a destructive emotional dependency, the urge to restore the old normal at any cost. This creates inner guilt. One begins to believe that the family's behavior is related to one's own weaknesses. In reality, it is a sophisticated form of manipulation. The aggressor controls through insecurity and strategic distance. Recognizing this sign is crucial, as it shows how deep the damage can go when a family does not value you. The solution begins with clear boundaries and the awareness that you have a right to inner peace. But to take this step, you must grasp the full extent of the hidden hostility that poisons daily coexistence. Sign 5. Indifference to your feelings or achievements. A family that does not value you will eventually show that your feelings and achievements mean nothing to them. When you share good news, they respond tepidly or abruptly change the subject, as if to minimize your moment. No genuine interest, no sincere feedback, and in the worst case, they even sabotage your progress. This indifference goes far beyond mere disinterest. It feels like a wall that blocks every attempt to share joy. Over time, this attitude becomes chronic and creates emotional isolation that leaves you feeling empty inside. The family avoids engaging with your emotions, stays superficial, and prefers to focus on their own matters. Interpersonal connection requires reciprocity. But in this type of relationship, that bond is broken, which feels like betrayal. The family atmosphere becomes cold and grey, no pride in your victories, no sincere comfort in your defeats. This emotional distance undermines your self-confidence and makes you feel like your efforts are worthless. Don't give up. There is more to understand about the layers of familial indifference. This indifference is also shown when you ask for support or show vulnerability and receive only mockery or ignorance. It doesn't need open aggression. It's enough to dismiss or completely ignore your experiences. Often there are also remarks that downplay your concerns. This creates an inner vacuum that swallows every hope for understanding in your own home. This scenario breaks family cohesion and weakens your inner security until you become dependent in other areas of life. It is necessary to recognize this condition because familial indifference often becomes normalized and leads the affected to believe their feelings don't matter. Recognizing this is a crucial step in drawing a line so that the coldness of those who should love you doesn't trap you forever in dissatisfaction. Sign 6. Guilt as a tool of control. One of the most destructive ways a family shows lack of appreciation is by using guilt as a tool of control. This tactic appears as moral obligation, emotional guilt, or the idea that your worth depends on total self-sacrifice. You are constantly confronted with accusations emphasizing the time, effort, and dedication supposedly invested in you, which you are now expected to repay without objection. This constant reminder of everything we've done for you reinforces a power dynamic that forces obedience and silence. In this state of submission, your wishes are suppressed through emotional blackmail that restricts your freedom. It gets even darker when you begin to accept these feelings of guilt and internalize the belief that you don't deserve space or personal decisions. A crushing weight appears that paralyzes you and prevents you from growing with autonomy. Every step in a direction your family disapproves of becomes a trigger for tension and accusations. As you continue reading, you will see how this imposed guilt interlocks with other behaviors, reinforcing the feeling of being unappreciated. Sometimes this emotional blackmail appears as fake concern or victimhood. They lament their suffering while ignoring your emotions and expect you to honor their continuous effort. This strategy makes you suppress your own voice out of fear of being seen as ungrateful or irresponsible. You might even be denied the right to set clear boundaries, because as soon as you try, a wave of guilt is unleashed. These long-term dynamics often lead to self-esteem issues, anxiety, and chronic fear of disappointing others. The core truth is that a family that manipulates you with guilt does not acknowledge your individuality or your right to a life of your own. Control through shame or guilt is a clear sign that your identity is not respected. You are seen only as a means to fulfill their expectations. Sign 7. Lack of support in critical moments. Another clear sign of familial devaluation is the absence of support in key moments. When you go through a health crisis, work conflict, or financial trouble, you expect backing from your family. But instead you are met with excuses, disinterest, or even comments blaming you for your own problems. This indifference often hurts more than direct attack, because it destroys the hope for a safety net when things fall apart. Support does not always mean solutions. Often, just a willingness to listen and be there is enough. In a family that doesn't value you, even this is missing. You may get vague advice or hollow promises that are never kept. This pattern repeats itself, revealing that your difficulties matter less than their comfort. Such a family does not want to give up their ease to support you. Along with apathy, sharp criticism and blame also often appear, emphasizing your supposed faults rather than offering empathy. This creates a sense of complete isolation. Pay close attention to these details. They reveal who is really there only during success, but disappears when storms come. The pain deepens when you realize there is no real bond, only a quiet agreement that your needs are secondary and no one takes responsibility for your well-being. This not only destroys the family connection, but also affects your relationships with the outside world. You develop deep mistrust of closeness and affection, and an inner void that makes you question your own worth. The betrayal is found in every silence, in every turned back where you needed support. It leads to the belief that you can only rely on yourself, which causes isolation and withdrawal. Recognizing this is essential to prevent accepting the lack of help in hard times as normal, because those who love you show up in moments of real need, and those who don't clearly prove they have no genuine feeling for you. Sign 8. Constant and destructive comparisons. If your family doesn't value you, they often resort to constant comparisons, highlighting what you allegedly lack or haven't achieved. They talk about the successes of other relatives or acquaintances to devalue your achievements or emphasize your supposed shortcomings. Such comparisons serve no constructive purpose. They aim to highlight weaknesses and create a sense of inadequacy. Your individuality is reduced to an unfair standard that only fuels frustration and self-doubt. Over time, this behavior becomes a psychological weapon that deeply wounds your self-esteem. A constant sense of frustration emerges, but no matter how hard you try, there's always someone who is better and overshadows you. This cycle of comparison fosters a feeling of perpetual insufficiency and traps you in a competition you can never win. Keep reading, because a deeper understanding of these dynamics will help you fully grasp the complexity of familial devaluation. A family that does not truly love you often hides behind the supposed intent to motivate you, while in reality they sow insecurity and toxic competition. They nurture a feeling of chronic incompetence and make you believe your successes will never be a source of pride. Constant comparisons not only divide the family, they destroy harmony, trust, and mutual support. In the end, it becomes clear this family does not want to see you thrive. They are merely projecting their own unfulfilled dreams or frustrations onto you. Recognizing this pattern is crucial for taking the next step. Understanding that it's not your responsibility to fulfill imposed roles or compare your life to others. Your personal worth does not come from surpassing someone else, but from your authenticity and unique growth. Those who constantly compare you instead of supporting you do not recognize your essence and reduce you to a list of achievements that will never satisfy their insatiable need for control. Once you recognize this sign, you gain the power to cut the threads of manipulation that hold together a family structure of competition and disregard. Sign 9. Violation of your privacy and ignored boundaries. And a family that does not respect your individuality crosses your boundaries and interferes in personal matters without consideration. They rummage through your things, comment uninvited on your relationships, control your clothing choices, or try to make decisions for you that should be yours alone. This intrusion into your privacy robs you of your right to a safe space and reveals that you are not seen as an autonomous being. A state of constant alertness arises in which you feel constantly watched and judged. Your freedom to act according to your own standards is limited as your family imposes themselves in invasive ways. You begin to hide parts of your life to escape their interference, creating continuous tension. Stay with this reading because the loss of privacy is a central element in understanding the extent of familial devaluation. Protecting your individuality is essential for your mental health. When family members cross these boundaries, they violate something fundamental in your personal integrity. This behavior reveals a lack of respect and empathy. They don't even make an effort to distinguish between their space and yours. Often, they justify it with the pretense that it's for your own good, while the real intention is to control your decisions and suppress your will. This disregard for your boundaries leads to a sense of vulnerability and makes you question your ability to shape your own life. Systematic violations of your privacy, together with other signs, can lead to a toxic dependency in which you no longer feel the strength to set clear boundaries. Over time, the victim begins to normalize this behavior and loses touch with their own identity. Recognizing it in time helps you stop the control and affirm your right to an inviolable personal space. If the family fails to see the harm they cause by interfering in every area of your life, it clearly shows your worth as an individual is not on their priority list. Sign 10. Ridiculing your dreams and goals. A clear sign that your family doesn't value you is the constant mocking of your dreams and ambitions. They make fun of your plans, call them absurd or unrealistic, and use sarcasm to demean your efforts. Every time you express a desire for progress, you face mocking remarks that make your goals look ridiculous. This attitude sabotages the natural desire for growth, which should be nurtured by honest support. As a result, you begin to doubt your abilities and feel your dreams are meaningless. When those you expect encouragement from attack you instead, a crack forms in your foundation of motivation. This crack deepens as you realize that your family does not walk with you but exposes you, making you feel that big goals are a sign of arrogance or naivety. Stay with this. A full understanding of this pattern shows how far a destructive family dynamic can go. Ridiculing your dreams proves that your family does not want you to rise, perhaps because your success would threaten their familiar comfort zone. Belittling your goals is a way to suppress your potential and tie you to the mediocrity they've accepted. This emotional poison hardens your internal insecurities and blocks your perseverance. Even when they claim to mean well, such mockery sows fear and frustration. Eventually, you begin to hide your dreams out of fear of rejection or ridicule. This self-censorship drains your vitality and pulls you away from your true path. Understanding how deeply this mockery attacks your identity is essential to breaking free and defending your goals. A family that mocks your dreams clearly shows they do not respect you. And without respect, there is neither true love nor genuine recognition. Those who keep going despite mockery develop an inner strength that can carry them far. But first, you must find the courage to recognize this sign and confront the family disregard. Only then can you find your own path to self-realization. These signs clearly show when your family doesn't value you, it affects every area of your life. Closing this topic means understanding that you do not have to settle for indifference or contempt. I invite you to strengthen your judgment and self-worth, set clear boundaries, and seek environments that honor your essence. Awareness protects your emotional balance and opens new paths. Subscribe to keep learning how to respond to these dynamics. And don't miss the opportunity to surround yourself with people who truly empower you. It's time to act consciously and never look back. Knowledge gives you wings to step out of the shadow of devaluation.